If worldwide affairs have a place in your day, this is the place you will want to stay. The Bobb-Semple International Podcast with your host, world-renowned voice of Garvey and global news commentator, Bobb-Semple.
Greetings and welcome to the Bobb-Semple International Podcast. We will be addressing global issues that impact our day-to-day lives.
The Merikins are African-American refugees who escaped and settled in various companies across Trinidad with their families after the War of 1812. They call themselves the Americans, but because of their native languages from Africa, they pronounce the word without sounding the A in American, pronouncing it instead as Merikins. Joining us from the island of Trinidad are two descendants of the Merikins family, Sister Akilah, Jaramogi, and Brother Rondel Benjamin. Greetings to both of you, and welcome to the Bobb-Semple International Podcast.
Good day, good day.
Greetings.
Absolutely. Sister Akilah, you are the CEO of the Fondes Amandes Community Reforestation Project in St. Anne's, there in Trinidad and Tobago. Tell us about this organization that you co-founded with your late husband, Takuma, back in 1982.
Okay, the Fondes Community Reforestation Project was founded way back, as in 82, by my late husband, Takuma Jaramogi. I later joined him with a mission to care for the earth, care for the watershed, transform a fire climax zone just some minutes away from the savannah into a healthy agroforestry project. My work was inspired because of my roots from coming from South Trinidad and leaving South and coming to the city. I never liked downtown Port of Spain. I never liked the city. I loved the forest. But when I see the forest being burnt during the dry season, it bothered me a lot. I encourage my late husband. I say, let us invest in trees. Let us invest in hardwood trees. Let us invest in fruit trees and trees that can give me craft material, to bring back this forest cover. So like my ancestors, like my grandparents and the people from the community, the Merikin community in South Trinidad, I modeled what we lived down there, a forested environment. And this is what it is today. Thanks. Yeah.
Now, Haiti's deforestation epidemic, where the erosion of the soil has crippled agriculture, destroyed much of the natural beauty of the country, and decimated its infrastructure. How widespread is deforestation there in Trinidad and Tobago?
We have a lot of deforestation in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's caused by just reckless slash and burn farming. It's caused by, development, a lot of, reasons for deforestation in Trinidad and Tobago. But at the same time, Trinidad is not as big as Haiti, as you know. So again, and when we have two seasons, the dry season and the rainy season. So the dry season, you'll see a lot of fires, and that will show up the level of deforestation in Trinidad. But come quickly, rainy season, you get a quick green cover of grass or whatever, and that conversation or the attention to look at deforestation quickly fades away. So again, deforestation, we do have a lot of deforestation happening in Trinidad, but at the same time, our people in Trinidad, they are not looking at it as something critical. So hence the reason why our reforestation project keep, reminding the state, reminding the people that, we need to convert our degraded spaces into what we have here, like our model at Fondes, bring back forest cover and care for the earth. So again, it's an ongoing conversation here at Fondes and an ongoing action to bring back forest cover in degraded parts of Trinidad and Tobago.
How are you funded?
That's another thing. We are funded, part funded. We have to go out there and look for funding, but we also have part of our project. We are connected to the state where we are part of the National Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program, where about 56 groups around Trinidad and Tobago are doing reforestation as well. So we have like 30 workers at Fonsuman, and they come in and they, cut fire breaks and so on. So that's part funded. But other than that, we have to go there and look for funding to sustain the project, where we cover roughly over 150 acres of land.
Give us an our story of the Merikins, including why they settled in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, wow. Our American people, as you know, we were not called Merikin from the beginning. We were called Americans, and that's because of the journey. And I don't like to start my story with slavery. I don't like to start my story with the transatlantic slave trade. I like to start my story understanding where we came from. Our ancestors came from Africa, as you know, West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Senegal, Ivory Coast. Well, the final port was Sierra Leone. And we settled in the US on plantations. That journey was not an easy one, but we survived it. We survived that journey. And coming up to the hearing what was happening, this trade embargo, Britain versus America, and they had all the fallouts and so on. That was not a concern of us right away, because we there, all we seeking to do is to be free. All we seeking to do is find a way how to get out of the shackles, get out of plantations. So here we are in Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, we just wanted a way out. So my ancestors, they hearing, something happening, hearing about this war, coming, we just started to mobilize our people, and we ran away from the plantations. We ran away from plantations and hid in the swamps. We ran away from the plantation and hid on the shorelines. We ran away from plantations and eventually found ourselves on the ships, on the British ships. Eventually found ourselves wearing red coats and fighting on the side of the British. But again, in a nutshell, it comes like that. But we know the journey was not an easy one. To flee from plantation, sometimes leaving our families behind, this is what we were forced to do for our freedom. And we end up on the vessels fighting on the side of the British. And following that, after the war, we were promised our freedom by getting out of America. I wish they had promised us our freedom to take us back to Africa, but the freedom was out of America. And there, after the war in 1814, we were sent to Bermuda, and following that, we were sent to Canada, while they tried to decide where to send these Africans after serving the British. We were sent to Nova Scotia in Canada. And following that, we were then sent to Trinidad, South Trinidad. So the first batch of soldiers, the first batch of African soldiers that settled in Trinidad, settled in a place called First Company or Devil's Woodyard. The Devil's Woodyard, as you will know, or others will know, is the site where you would find the volcano. So if you truly care about us, why would you put us in the site where, our life could have been at risk, being placed around a volcano? But thanks to the first people, they came out and assisted us, the Waro people. They came from the Moruga shoreline, the Moruga area, and they came and they helped us clear land and settle down in the first company. Well, the first company of soldiers, that's why they call the area First Company. And we settled there. And then the second batch of soldiers that came in settled around Hindustan, Matilda area, and they called that area Second Company because of the second batch of soldiers. And then the third batch of soldiers settled on the Indian Walk Road, and that's a road going to Muruga, and so on. The fourth batch of soldiers settled in a place called Hard Bargain or Williamsville, and there's a story around that. I know, Rondel, you can share that one, with the Hard Bargain. And then the fifth batch of soldiers settled in on the Indian Walk Road next to the third company and the second company. And the sixth batch of soldiers, which is the largest batch of soldiers and the final batch of soldiers, settled in sixth company that connects first company, second company, third company, and fifth company. So the sixth company is the largest company of soldiers, is where the largest company of soldiers settled. And here we are today calling ourselves Merikins in Trinidad.
Well, Brother Rondel, I'm not going to let you off the hook. Sister Akilah just opened the door for you. So tell us about that Piparo Mud volcano area, the hard bargain that Sister Akilah just referred to.
Well, one of the things that we have to recognize is the Africans who came here were wise guerrilla leaders, great negotiators, men and women of strength. They recognized that the deal the British gave them was a hard bargain, a bargain that they were not willing to settle for. And so they pushed through negotiations and threat and strength to force the British governor to renegotiate the deal he made with the American companies. And that's why we now have a place next to hard bargain called New Grants, where new grants of land and new pieces were given to them as part of the deal. What we have to recognize is politically in Trinidad and Tobago, the Americans have always been a force. We've produced people in high levels of education, politics, because it was people who were landed, people who had a sense of what reparations could have been for the rest of the African people. With land came power, and with power came the ability to find a way for their people. And so when you look at dignitaries in Trinidad, among the African diaspora, a large majority of the thinkers, the creatives, the farmers, business owners, all have links and are attached to the people of the company.
You are a martial artist, cultural practitioner, and co-founder of the Bois Academy. What happens at the Academy?
The Bois Academy was formed in St. Mary's Village just after Fifth Company by some elders. And anytime we enter these spaces, we call their names. King Stokely, Congo Barra, David Matthew Brown, King Carl Swamba, Moruga's finest. What we decided with the guidance of an elder Orisha practitioner named Mother Marian was to form a collective for the restoration, rejuvenation, and reformation of Trinidad Kalinda. What we wanted to do was give the world access to this psychotechnology, this wanga, this magic we have in Moruga, this thing that feeds our warrior spirit, the way we engage in conflict and cooperation, this way where we deny domination by being willing to fight back. And so it is a collection of songs and rituals and dances and martial traditions. And it's more than one. It's not only stick, cutlass, whip, the traditions that came with the Americans, because they were always warriors and they were always hunters. And these traditions, because we were dealing with a people who weren't enslaved, even in the 1800s, early 1800s, it means it was also a space of African retention. It was a space of galvanization where the Africans who were enslaved were always trying to enter into the communities, form maroon communities around the communities, access the knowledge and hide inside of the communities. Because in the 1800s, Moruga really wasn't Trinidad. It was this special space of these liberated people. One of my grandfathers, one of my aunts was saying, hey, Black Power, we were slaves. And he said, I will correct you all. We from Moruga, not all of us were ever slaves. We were freed people and we were always free. And so when we speak of Moruga, we speak of the Trinidadian Maroon. But I will let Akilah lead us because that's my elder when it comes to these things.
The current global pandemic has caused many shift changes in our daily lives. On an interview, I heard you say that the primary perpetrators of gender-based violence there in Trinidad are men killing men. The largest number of suicides are men committing suicide. The largest number of people being incarcerated are men. Would you say that these sobering statistics are empowering women?
Well, again, the Caribbean identity, especially among Americans, the idea of what women are and their role in communities is inverted. Moruga is a matrifocal space. The elders and leaders in the community are women. They talk about women working. Moruga women always work. They always generated revenue. They always controlled the market. They always had trade. They always had vegetable stores. And so, one, we have to be able to suspend the European worldview from the African diaspora worldview. Two, what we have is a case where, in order to break our communities from engaging in their full power, in our full African brilliance, is by creating instability in the males in the community. The women have held their roles as mothers, givers, teachers. And what we have to now is re-empower the men to fall back into their role as warriors, supporters, and leaders to create these family units that can then again create spaces that are safe for our people. So we have a generation of very damaged and traumatized men and women. But unfortunately, the men in the community have turned against the women in the community. And so for me, it's not about empowering. The women always had power. It's about fighting off this European idea of patriarchy, of sharing away and sitting in our Caribbeanness and understanding that granny does always control the money in the house. Everybody in the Caribbean know that. When uncle and auntie get away, you had to go back to auntie and she go fix it. That men have great power in the community. When the women wanted Captain Baker in 1881 to stop abusing them and allow them to play mass, Sophie Belle, the queen of the yard, sent for Joe Talman and the king. And she said, Joe, this had to stop. And I know that from Aruga when Mother Marian tell me, Benji, you see what's going on there on the block? That has to stop. Or let her fix that. I know, as the male in the community, will step in and fix it. So we have this symbiotic ability, just like Akilah and I. Akilah is somebody who I will call for advice and guidance, an elder woman in the community, but she know when she needs certain kinds of strength to call me because I will fix what needs to be fixed. And so that's kind of how it does go.
How do you define Caribbean masculinity?
Caribbean masculinity sits inside of an interesting combination. I want you to think of a taxi driver, an opening batsman for the West Indies, Sparrow on Tuesday morning with a bottle of rum, but also Uncle Tayo, who would sit down with the children every Sunday and sing laugh ways for the girls to play ring games. You see, all of these things exist in our space. That the man isn't the Western hard man. The man here could be the lover, the singer, the drummer, the one who does love up the little children, brave, loud, half crazy, half loving, and all of it fits. We don't have these hard European archetypes of king, warrior. No, no. We could be all of that and none of that at the same time.
Sister Akilah, your daughter, Kemba Nefertiti, is also an environmentalist who focuses on transforming lives through environmental educational programs. How important was it for you to ensure that she not only follows in your footsteps, but encourages her generation to be conscious of their surroundings?
I think for me, it was all about the liberty, living it, and getting them involved, getting my children involved, getting Kemba involved. When you talk about succession, when you talk about passing on the tradition, passing on responsibilities and so on, that is where she came in as a young leader, looking and following the footstep of her mama. Same way I followed the footstep of my grandparents. I followed the footstep of my elders in South Trinidad, my grandmother who was a farmer, Papa Nisa who was a healer, the traditions, be it the oration traditions, be it the farming tradition, be it culture, be it whatever. And for me, I thought it was very important to clear that part and to live a life where others can emulate me, my children can emulate me, the young people in the community can elevate me, the young people in the region can follow the path that we set, that I set. So again, it was just, passing on the tradition, passing the baton, getting them involved in leadership from youth, from young. And so hence the reason why even the work that we are doing as women in the Merikin community, we work with children, we work with a lot of children, different age groups. We work with the secondary schools, we work with the primary schools, we work with the young adults, and not just in Trinidad, but as Brother Benji was saying, the Maroons of the diaspora, where we go outside of Trinidad, where we unite, and it starts with women. Mama G from Jamaica, Ambassador Fidelia Grangalon from Suriname. We bring these two sisters together along with myself, to defend our Caribbean people, to raise the spirits of our ancestors around the region, uniting Maroons of the diaspora, where we bravely went into the UN and stood up there and say, here, we need attention. We need to be declared as, indigenous peoples do. We need to have the rights as indigenous peoples around the Caribbean, So all this is what I take and I instill in my children. I instill in some of the women who belong to the Maroon groups, so not just in Trinidad, as I say, but I believe in networking because I know it's a very, very powerful tool, often underused. But in this time, we have to use it to the best of our ability. And this is what me and others in the Caribbean here, others in Trinidad, my other sisters and brothers in Trinidad are doing, but most of all, passing on the tradition to the children. So post Akilah, post Rondel, post Marva Sandy, post Fidelia Grangalon and Mama G, we know they will carry on the work.
How challenging has this work been for you?
It is very challenging, but again, we enjoy it because, I enjoy it because for me, I am doing this for my elders. I am doing this for my ancestors. I am doing this for my people. It's not about money. It's about love. It's about keeping traditions alive. It's about the soul. It's about, raising and elevating the energy of our ancestors. It's about appeasing our ancestors. And this is why I enjoy it so much. This is why I enjoy the sacrifice that I give. We need resources, we need money, we need so many things. But again, we'll not make that a barrier from moving forward and achieving the goals that we set out to achieve.
The most popular effects of deforestation are increasing global warming, greenhouse gas emissions, global climate, the composition of carbon in the soil, decreased oxygen levels, and the imbalance of the biosphere. How much focus is currently being placed on the concerns of climate change by the government of Trinidad and Tobago?
Our government is doing the best they can, I would say, and it's up to the people to do what they can as well. It's up to us to educate the children, to educate even the leaders, to educate even people in the government. So again, when I look at the work of the government, I know they have to do more. They have to do more. They are mandated to do more. But at the same time, it's we, the people, have to put pressure on the state to say, hey, yes, this is what we need. Sometimes you see, it's not the priority, it's not the agenda, it's not on the agenda. And for us, like what I am doing, I make it an agenda. So any conversation I have with the state, I put before them the importance of forests, valuing forests. We need sequesters of carbon. We need the trees, understanding the value of trees. Get this information in the schools, and then it will get to the Ministry of Education. Get it in culture, and then it will get to the Minister of Culture. So all avenue I take, when I do culture, there's always the environment. When I do education, there's always the environment. When I do general climate change or whatever, there's always the environment. So whatever ministry I go to, I put the environment first, because we cannot live without the environment. So in whatever area, the environment continue to be important. But again, it's getting the state, getting the citizens to put pressure on the state to do what is mandated to do, which is caring for the green space, caring for our forests and our natural environment. And again, the people need to do that because the government's supposed to be of the people. So the people need to push the government to make sure that they do what they have to do.
Absolutely. Rondel, it sounded as if you wanted to chime in.
No, I was just happy to testify that what Akilah is saying is truth. You see, we live in a space here where people just talk the talk, but they don't ever walk the walk. People just talk about the environment, but they don't dedicate their life to restoring the watershed the way Akilah and Fonzaman has. People just say they're going to try and lobby in education, but they don't host Merikin poetry competitions in the companies that make the children aware of the power of hill rice and our legacy as farmers and the power of the green spaces that we've maintained. So it was more me just really wanting to witness to what I learned from Akilah in one short word is don't just talk, do.
Yeah, sure.
Are females also enrolled in your Voix Academy program?
Yes. There's a misconception in Trinidad that women didn't have anything to do with Kalinda, which is tremendously strange to me, especially among the Americans. My first teacher was a woman, Mother Miriam. I know over 10 women that play. The first chanters in Trinidad, the Carrizo singers, were women. So there's this strange amnesia that has occurred in Trinidad over the last 50 years where a lot of things that was commonplace are now thought to have not occurred. It's very, very strange.
Do you think your program could or should be replicated throughout the Caribbean and possibly beyond?
Kalinda occurred in Louisiana and every island all the way to Venezuela. In Puerto Rico, it's called Coco Baile. In Cuba, it's called Mani. In Guadeloupe and Dominican Republic, there's Palo, and then there's Damier. So Kalinda is in every territory. It's also known by its synonym, Bambula. What we need to do is restore it to its full glory. We in Trinidad have kept the martial and musical aspects alive, and in many other places, it's now a cultural dance done for tourists. So we have created a network of Caribbean stick fighting associations where we are actively injecting the martial elements of Kalinda back into the other islands. So that doesn't really happen in Barbados. We've licked up with the Bajan stick licking elders, where one of the things we're trying to curate for them is the return of a wood known as Old Yella, which is yellow pui. They've deforested to the point where they don't have the trees anymore, so they can't make the sticks. So it's our job to get the trees back into Barbados, because what people don't tell you is one of the companies was supposed to go to Barbados, but the boat sank. I believe it was the fourth company, right? So when we talk about the history of the Americans, Barbados has an honorable mention as well.
Sister Akilah, what is most misunderstood about the Merikins community?
Our resilience, one, and our what we offer to Trinidad and Tobago. So one is, how did we survive? They just saw us here and they tell themselves, oh, the Americans. But they never really took into consideration that we would just drop there. We were not, dropped off in the Hyatt or something, nice living. We had to survive, and we survived it. We cut our own roads, we planted our own food, we had our own medicines, we had our skilled men and women, and we helped build Trinidad and Tobago. We are the ones who build Trinidad and Tobago, and again, as free Blacks with pride and we kept the tradition, we kept our African self, we kept that greatness and proud to be who we are, among our people here. We never bow. While other cultures got, after the abolishment of slavery, they got lands, they got everything. We had lands. So we stood up there and we kept ourselves in a way that our ancestors can be proud. And that is what sometimes people feel, we then integrate with society, yes. And, after, everybody feel, oh, beautiful Trinidad and Tobago. But here we are, strong, proud African descendants, keeping tradition alive, keeping even the ones who kept the Orisha tradition alive, the Orisha culture alive, and tend to say Baptist, but we know we came with the Orisha culture alive as well, So again, sometimes you see the African men and women in society, Black men and women in society, and they want to know, hey, she looks like an African, but we are. We never bow. We never cut off that link with Mama Africa. And today we continue to keep connected and value who we are and what our foreparents blessed us with. Yeah.
Sister Akilah, Jaramogi, and Brother Rondel Benjamin, thank you for joining me on the Bobb-Semple International Podcast and enlightening us about the misconceptions and the realities of the Merikins community there in Trinidad and Tobago. Asante Sana.
Thank you, brother.
Simba Simbi, we lift up those who lift us up.
Asheo.
Asheo. Thank you for spending some time with us. If you are so inclined, you can subscribe to these podcasts and donate to them by clicking on the Support the Show button on the website. Please continue to protect yourself and your loved ones during this global pandemic by observing all protocols. Be safe, be strong, and be aware. I'm Bobb-Semple.